ready for some football. I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Lou? Yeah.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to Monday Night Football overtime. Jets, Niners. Aaron Rodgers makes his anticipated, let's call it a debut. I mean, technically speaking, 4 snaps last year, Monday night against the Bills, done for the season with an Achilles injury. So for all intents and purposes, this was really his Jets debut. First time playing a full game as a member of the New York Jets. This stream is powered by BetUS. And I think there are a lot of people that question whether the Jets are going to be good this year. I think they're going to be a good football team this year. And I think they got a legitimate shot at winning that division in the AFC East. But they were running up against a bully tonight. And the news of Christian McCaffrey being out of the game tonight didn't sway me one bit as to what I thought the outcome would be. Aaron Rodgers, I'm not sure if he's ever beaten the 49ers in San Francisco. I can't confirm nor deny that. He's played a lot of games in his NFL career. I'm pretty sure the 49ers weren't always good, and he's probably drubbed them a number of times. But since they've been good, since Shanahan has gotten there, John Lynch and company, I don't know if he's ever beaten them. Let's say since 2018, I don't think he's beaten the 49ers. And really, the 49ers run started in 2019 to be exact. So I don't think he's beaten them since 2019, especially in San Francisco, no less. But even in Green Bay, they go there and they win. They won the playoff game there about 3 years ago or whatever it was, when the Packers were the #1 seed. So I didn't think he was going to win this game no matter what. But you have to love the way the 49ers play football. They're such bullies. They're such badasses. I love their way of attacking the game itself. But you know how I am. I'm a big fan of Kyle Shanahan, a big fan of how he conducts business and operates. I've said this a number of times. I think he's the best play caller in the NFL. And no Christian McCaffrey, the offensive player of the year from a season ago, no problem. Just stick Jordan Mason in there. And I told you guys I like this kid. I told you that last year. I like this Jordan Mason kid, and he runs hard. And look, if there's one thing that the Shanahans have always been able to do, and this goes back to Papa Shanahan, Mike, is they can find themselves a late round undrafted gym running back that fits their scheme, right? And, you know, I think of all the positions in the NFL, running back is the one that people view as the most disposable. So you can find you a quality back if you know what you're looking for. Case in point, Isaiah Pacheco was a 7th round pick out of Rutgers. Isaiah Pacheco is one of my favorite running backs to watch play. He plays with a violent, reckless abandon that, again, it doesn't lend itself to a long career with, longevity, but man, is it fun to watch. He's fast, he's physical, and he doesn't give a shit. And that's kind of what we saw from Jordan Mason. I don't think he's nearly as fast as Isaiah Pacheco, but he ran just as hard and physical as Isaiah Pacheco did tonight. And 28 carries. First of all, who's doing that anyway? Was it 28 or 26? Let me get that number right. 28 carries. I had it right. 28 carries, 147 yards. Not to mention, how many catches did he have? He had to have at least 3 catches in the game. No, just one. 1 catch for 5 yards, that 3rd down catch he had. So almost 30 touches for a guy who has never had a career start in the NFL, if I'm not mistaken, and has never had this many carries in his NFL career. I'm not sure that he had this many carries at Georgia Tech, and that's a running program. But they also run the triple option, and so fullbacks getting some, quarterbacks getting some, halfbacks getting some, everybody's getting some. So I'm not sure he had 28 touches, 29 touches in a game in college, let alone the NFL. And all week long, they weren't sure if McCaffrey was going to be able to go. And so he wasn't sure if he was going to be able to go. And then he thrust it into action, and the man is the star of the show. But it just goes to show you, I've watched the Shanahans do this for not years, decades. Okay. The Mike Andersons, the Tatum Bells of the world, the Ryan Terrains. I've watched them do this for years, for decades. Okay. Terrell Davis was a 6th-round pick. All right. This is what they do. Okay. I wonder, now that I'm thinking about it, I wonder if Peyton Hillis had that year under Kyle when he was the offensive coordinator in Cleveland for that 1 year. I might be tripping. But anyway, I digress. Michael Turner, et cetera, et cetera. I go on and on and on. This is what they do. And so insert back here. And what a night for him. That's awesome to see him go out and play the way that he did. And this is not some pushover defense. You know, they didn't play against the little sisters of the poor. The Jets defensively have been one of the best teams in the league for the last 3 years defensively. They just didn't have a quarterback. It reminded me of the Denver Broncos for the entire Vic Fangio run, where they were one of the best defenses in football, but the offense stunk because they had no quarterback. And Vic Fangio couldn't do anything offensively, but defensively, they used to shut teams down. That's what the Jets have been the entire Robert Saleh era, is a really stout defense that just can't get it done because they don't have a quarterback. Now they have a quarterback, and they got their teeth kicked in, and the ball rammed down their throats by the San Francisco 49ers tonight. And you know what was funny is my wife, she loves to make a joke about Troy Aikman. She said, Troy Aikman is just so shady, right? Because he is going to say what's on. That's why I love Troy. A lot of, Commanders fans can't stand Troy Aikman or, Moose Johnston because they think they're biased towards the Cowboys. Yeah, there's some bias in there, obviously, but I don't think it comes out in their commentary, right? I think they call it straight down the middle. And I love Troy Aikman as an analyst, and because Troy doesn't give a shit. He's going to tell you how he feels just like it is. And if you don't like it, too damn bad. Troy does not give a shit. And my wife's like, he's always throwing shade at somebody. So when tonight, what was I just talking about? I forgot that fast why I brought that up, because it was funny. I don't even remember. It'll come to me. That quick, I just lost my train of thought. But anyway, this was a game that I thought the 49ers could come out. Oh, okay. Now I remember. The Jets defensively couldn't stop the run. And in the game, Troy Aikman was talking about a conversation he had with Robert Saleh, leading up to the game. And he asked him about the Jets' rush defense, and knowing that they were going to get a heavy dose of the run tonight, whether it was McCaffrey or Mason, it didn't matter. The 49ers are going to run the ball. There are a select few teams that no matter what's going on, they're going to run the football. The 49ers are one of those teams. And so he said, look, if we want to stop the run, and this is a Robert Saleh quote, if we want to stop the run, we'll stop the run, right? Essentially saying, look, if we allow you to run the football, it's because we're trying to take away the pass. But if we hunker down and we want to stop the run, we'll stop the run. And Troy Aikman was like, Robert Saleh told me that when they want to stop the run, they stop the run. And he said, you look at last year, the numbers were misleading because they didn't really give up a lot of yards per carry, and so, they were really a stout run defense. But tonight, they know the 49ers are running the football. And it's been a steady dose of Jordan Mason. And they can't stop it. And they knew they were going to get in this. He said this at the beginning of the third quarter as the 49ers were ramming the ball down their throat, down the field en route to what would be, I think, their last touchdown of the night, because I think they only scored 2 touchdowns and they kicked like 6 field goals. So they're moving it down the field on the ground, and he's like, Robert Saleh told me they can stop the run when they want to stop the run. Doesn't look like it to me. But that's the nature of the 49ers. They're just bullies. There's nobody in the conference better than them. When they're on their game, there's nobody better. And here's the thing that they have on their side that nobody else has. they've taken the heart of every team in the conference sans for Detroit. Detroit is the only team that's not afraid of them. Okay. Green Bay might not be afraid of them, but Green Bay's not good enough to beat them. Right? Green Bay's not good enough to beat them. Detroit is the only team that can look them in the face and say, I'm just as big and bad a bully as you are. And if you want to play that game, I can play that game with you. Because we can get down and dirty in the trenches and be just as physical as you can. And if you want to go finesse, we can do that too. They took the Eagles' heart last year, bitch slapped them in their own building. All right. Did the same thing to Dallas, beat the brakes off of them, got them shook. Right? Ain't no such things as halfway crook. They scared to death. They scared to look. They shook. Cowboys fans, Eagles fans alike are shook. So they took their hearts. And then when you see a game like tonight, that's a respected Jets defense. With Aaron Rodgers, it's different if you know you don't have a chance in hell. If we don't play perfect defense, we ain't winning with Zach Wilson. It's a different way that you go into a game when you got Aaron Rodgers at quarterback than when you have Zach Wilson. And they went in there and they beat them up physically tonight. Brock Purdy was solid. Dropped some dimes in there. Should have had another touchdown pass because Brandon Ayuk dropped one. He was throwing some really good balls in there. Make just the shit that Brock Purdy always does. He's a great distributor of the football and managed the game really well, made all the right decisions for the most part, pressed all the right buttons. Love Brock Purdy. I don't think he gets enough credit for what he does. But this was the Jordan, this was the, forget this, Jordan Mason game right here. This was Jordan Mason's game. And the Jets had no answer. None whatsoever. And the 49ers can beat you up in a multitude of ways. They can get you on the ground. They can get you through the air. The defense can get involved, which they did tonight. Forced, 2 turnovers, right? They even trying to now encourage fear on special teams now by putting Deebo Samuel back on kickoff returns and daring you to kick the ball in play so that he can get a chance to return it. Like, how dare you? You dirty bastards, right? So this was a dominant performance all the way around. Sans for the third possession of the game for the Jets, where they went right down the field and it was really the Garrett Wilson show and got into the end zone. They really didn't have much offense to show tonight. And again, that 49ers defense was flying around. And that Leonard Floyd, I call him Gumby, that Gumby edition is going to be huge because they were missing another guy which is why they went out and got Randy Gregory, why they traded for Chase Young. They were looking for someone to step up on that other side. And I'm telling you, Floyd has had 9 sacks or more each of the last 4 seasons, I believe. He's got a lot left in the tank. And you saw him being disruptive tonight. You saw him being a problem. He's going to be just what the doctor ordered if he can stay healthy. And that's been something that at times crops up with him. But if he's healthy, he's going to be a nice tag team partner. Tag team back again on the other side from Nick Bosa. And that's going to create problems for defenses to have to deal with. So they look, and this is all without Dre Greenlaw, obviously. So this 49ers team, they look good defensively. They were flying around. They were physical. They created turnovers. They got to the quarterback, made Rodgers uncomfortable. The offense, the one nitpick I have tonight, if you're a 49ers fan, as clean of a victory as this was, as dominant of a performance as this was, the one nitpick that I have is the inability to finish drives. Too many field goals. You kicked 6 field goals tonight. You could have put up 40 plus tonight. Had you caught the football in the end zone, had you not had the penalties, had you finished off drives, this could have easily been an assault with battery, right? This could have easily been 45 to 20 or 50. You could have put up a 50 burger potentially. You kicked 6 field goals. How many trips to the red zone did they have? I'm actually curious now. think they had a ton of trips to the red zone because it felt like a lot of his field goals were 50-something yards away, right? I think he had like 2 50-yarders tonight. So I don't think they had a bunch of trips to the red zone. Yeah, they did. I take that back. 5 trips to the red zone, 2 of 5 for the 49ers in the red zone, which is that was the one blemish on what was just an outstanding, ass whooping tonight that they administered to the Jets is their inability to finish off drives. If they could have done that tonight, this would have been a flawless victory. If we were playing Street Fighter, it would have been perfect. Or if you're playing Mortal Kombat, flawless victory. But the one blemish, the one little kick to the leg that took off that much of your vitality right there was the inability to finish off these drives. And maybe that's where you miss a Christian McCaffrey. His ability to make a guy miss here or there in tight quarters and find the end zone. He's got that knack to get in the end zone. But what a performance, they were questioning whether Kyle should, go for it on 4th down when they were up 13. That was the absolute right decision to kick the field goal. I vehemently disagreed with Troy Aikman. I thought that Kyle was going to go for it here. For what? You know how hard it is to score a touchdown and get a 2-point conversion once? Try having to do that twice. I don't give a shit that it's still a 2-possession game. Being down 16 is more like being down 4 possessions. It's truly not. It is 2 possessions, but 2 possessions needing 2 2-point conversions is a totally different animal than just needing a field goal or a touchdown and a touchdown or 2 touchdowns, to tie a game up without needing to go for 2. Like having everything depend on one play. The Jets went for 2 tonight and didn't get it, right? So kick the field goal, push the lead out to 29-13, and force the Jets staff to score not only 2 touchdowns, but 2 2-point conversions without you scoring in addition to that to catch up, right? That was the perfect decision. It was the right decision. And I thought Shanahan pressed all the right buttons tonight. And big shout out to Jake Moody, man. Way not to be moody because obviously, last year as a rookie, things can go up and down, up and down. As a 3rd-round pick, there's a lot of pressure that comes with being a 3rd-round pick kicker. My mantra and my motto, there's one rule in terms of specialists. Don't select any until the 5th round or later. I had no issues with you selecting a specialist in the draft. Just don't do it before the 5th round because to me, there's no reason to do so. They took Jake Moody in the 3rd round. That's how badly they felt like they needed a kicker and how highly they thought of him. And last year, he was really good. But they lost that Browns game because of him, and I wasn't sure if I could count on Jake Moody. I always say, you got to be really careful when you take the young fellas out on the road. It's one thing when they're at home. Hey, they're good at home. But when you take the youngins out on the road, a lot of times they don't know how to act. And I wasn't sure about Jake Moody. That man went 6 for 6 tonight. Seems awfully comfortable to me. And he had a really good season last year. So now he seems to have found his stride in this league, and he's going to be a really good one for a long time. And when you're living right, you're living right. The 49ers have been living right because he hit one off the upright and it kicked inside, and that's when you know you're living right. And so all around, the run defense was really good. They limited the explosive plays. They only gave up the 1 to Lazard on offsides. And, a lot of times on those offside penalties, when you catch a guy slipping, the defense kind of lets down. They kind of stop because they think the officials are going to blow the whistle. They don't. And then all of a sudden, the guy's running right by you, and, Rodgers doesn't miss. You give him one of those opportunities, he ain't going to miss. And so that was really the one explosive that they gave up tonight. They made the Jets work for everything, and the Jets couldn't sustain offense. So this defense was damn near lights out, and the offense was just steady. They didn't do anything spectacular. They converted on 3rd downs. They were 6 of 13 on 3rd downs with the 49ers. So they took care of the football. They didn't turn it over tonight. They dominated. What was time of possession at one point? They doubled up the Jets. I think that last garbage time drive by Tyrod Taylor might have, made it the time of possession not as bad, but they killed them in time of possession. 38-21. 38-40 to 21-20 time of possession. Yikes. Zoinks. Scoop. But that's just an extension of what I just was talking about. You know, when you have a running back have 28 carries for 147 yards, you go 6 of 13 on third downs, you're eating up clock. I remember looking at the clock in the second quarter, and I looked at my watch, and I was like, God damn, this second quarter is flying because they were killing them on the ground. Killing them. I did it again in the third quarter because we got to halftime at 9:30, right? The game started at 8:15. We got to halftime at 9:30. That's how much running the 49ers were doing in the first half. Get to the third. Their first possession of the third quarter when Troy Aikman made that statement about them not beat the Jets. It doesn't look like they can stop the run to me. They know the run's coming. They can't stop it. That drive took up half of the third quarter. That first drive, the 49ers marched down and scored the touchdown. That drive took up 7.5 minutes of the third quarter call. I looked at my watch again like, damn, it's only 6-something. The Jets ran their first play offensively, and it was 6:48 left in the third quarter. I was like, God damn. I looked at my watch, and I said, man, the 49ers are killing these boys. Killing these boys. That was tough. That was a manhood check, you know, and you got to tuck. After that, Robert Saleh was like, I'm going to tuck my shit in. You know, Debo came, they snatched off, they snatched up the chain, and Rob was like, I'm going to tuck my shit in. I'll be straight. And the 49ers went over there and said, hey, give me that shit. No, you got it. Snatched that shit right off his damn neck. Took Aaron Rodgers out the game. All right, we good. We waving a white flag. So I'm going to say this because everything changes when your quarterback gets paid. And no one has taken more advantage of a quarterback being on a rookie deal, being paid next to nothing, more than the San Francisco 49ers. I really think that the Ayuk deal might be the one that comes back to haunt them from a financial standpoint. I don't think that they really wanted to do that one, but they know in order to win a Super Bowl, they need Brandon Ayuk. And they'll make some tough decisions, and whether that's move on from Debo or someone else. They're hoping that Ricky Pearsall can be a Debo Samuel replacement and a cheaper option at the position, but he's no Debo. There's only one Debo Samuel. You can try as hard as you might to try to replace Debo. There's only one Debo Samuel. But they're going to have to make some tough decisions, as Troy Aikman said, because once you pay Brock Purdy, a lot of this, wheeling and dealing, we're going to pay Fred, and we're going to pay Debo, and we're going to pay Brandon, and we're going to pay Trent, and we're going to pay Christian, and we're going to pay the cornerback that you signed last year from the Chiefs, and we're going to pay Nick Bosa, and they paid everybody, right? Can't keep doing that shit now, right? So this is the year. If you don't get it done this year, if you're the 49ers and you don't win the Super Bowl this year, I'm not saying that the window's closed, because it's not. But boy, does that window, it goes from being this damn wide open to that shit coming down about here. Ask the Bills. Ask the Chiefs. Not the Chiefs, excuse me. I meant to say the Bengals. Ask the Bengals. Shit changes drastically when that quarterback's no longer on a rookie deal and you got to pay up. Ask the Seahawks when they had Russell Wilson. See how fast that window closed? They went from Super Bowl, first 2 years, to pay Russell Wilson to boop, that shit slammed shut. Can't pay everybody now. So this is the year. And that's why I think they brought back Brandon Ayuk, because they needed Ayuk mentally checked in. They needed him happy. They couldn't have him here on that 1 year, last year of his contract and expected him to just be a good soldier. They needed him to be locked in, because they pushing all the chips to the center of the table. They'll figure out all the logistics next year and how we going to do this and how we going to do that. And if we got to cut bait here, we got to trade this guy. We'll figure all that shit out when we get there. This is the year. And this is a good start, right? This is a good start. That's a quality. I don't give a shit what anybody says. That was a quality Jets opponent that they just dismantled, disassembled, and spread the parts around Levi Stadium. That was a good Jets football team. And you're going to see that throughout this season. The Jets are going to be a good team. I really believe that. They made them look like chumps because they're bullies. And they're good at it. They're one of the best in the business. Boy, are they good at being bad. Yikes. If you're the Jets, you just chalk this one up to, hey, that's a damn good football team over there. And there ain't nothing to be ashamed about getting your damn teeth kicked in and smacked around by a team like the San Francisco 49ers in their building. You know, it's one thing to have them come to your place and disrespect you. That's a little bit much for me. Like, you can show some pride about yourself, right? When you go to their building and they beat you up, hey, it is what it is, man. And that's why you saw Aaron Rodgers on the sidelines kind of smiling, chumming up. Like Troy Aikman said, he ain't even tripping because he already knew. He was in the NFC for years, and he saw what they was doing to people. He already knew. The likelihood of us going in there and winning, slim and none. Well, we're going to go out here and give it a hell of a try, right? We're going to give it a college try. But he knew it was going to be a tall task, and it was going to be a tough ask to go out there and beat the 49ers. I think as you see the Jets kind of settle in, Breece Hall will be a big factor. You know, the fumble early sucked, but the defense stood tall, and they only gave up a field goal there. But he's going to be big, and whatever it is they do. Lazard, I'm glad to see him kind of come to life because after the first drop, Aaron, you could tell he was a little pissed about that drop. And you're pissed in that situation because you know, in order to beat San Francisco, we got to be damn near perfect. So on our opening possession, you can't drop that third down pass. And he slipped coming out of his break. And that's really what I think prompted him to drop that pass. But it was good to see him come to life because they're going to need him along with Mike Williams when, you know, they feel like he's really ready to go. And I think they're going to cut him loose next week and really get him out there and start allowing him to get some snaps. And, you know, once they get up to par, I think they'll be fine. You know, what was a little bit disappointing, but, you know, as much as they invested in the offensive line, you know, the guys that they brought in are old, especially the tackles. I thought that both of those guys gave up some pressures tonight. Tyron Smith had a holding penalty. I thought he had another one. He literally put Nick Bosa in a chokehold, like a sleeper. Like Nick tried to spin, and that man said, no, the hell you don't, and just choked his ass. Like, nope, stop that goddamn spin. Mid-spin, he put a chokehold on his ass. Stop that shit right now. Nick's like, goddamn. And they still ain't call that shit. I was like, God, I ain't never seen, like, I've seen dudes try to turn the corner and get that hog tie put on their ass as they trying to run that rip around the edge. I've never seen a dude mid-spin get a chokehold put on his ass, and his back is on the belly of the tackle as he's being choked. And the tackle didn't even try to hide the shit, and they ain't call it. I said, well, goddamn. And Tyron said, hey, I'm a vet in the game, and I'm going to be a Hall of Famer. I can get away with this shit. They're not going to see Nick Bosa and, you know, Leonard Floyd every week. So I'm not going to trip about them struggling a little bit tonight. But they're going to see some good pass rushers throughout the course of the year. And I don't know. These dudes, you went out and you traded for Morgan Moses. He was a rookie back in 2014, right? These are not spring chickens. He's been in the league 11 years, Morgan Moses has. And Tyron Smith, I don't remember when the hell he was a rookie, but he old as shit too. So Rodgers old as hell. Your two tackles old as hell. Like, understand that this might not go the way you think it might go, but ultimately, I think the Jets are going to be fine. And I think the key here that a lot of people aren't paying attention to is what Aikman said. I think it was Buck who actually said it. They got the fourth easiest schedule based off of course, last year. We know last year doesn't mean shit when it comes to this year. But, I mean, they're playing the Titans next week. They're going to beat the Titans. I don't care where that game is. I don't know if it's in New Jersey or if it's in Tennessee. They're going to win that game, right? And they're going to play because, again, remember, they finished My guess is the Dolphins and the Bills both made the playoffs. They finished third in that division. The Patriots were one of the worst teams in football last year. So they finished third in their division. So they're getting a third place schedule, and people try to downplay the where you finished the year before and what that means for your schedule. Bullshit. The difference between making the playoffs and missing the playoffs in the NFL is razor thin. And 3 games on your schedule, which is the difference between a first, a second, a third, and a fourth place schedule, is 3 games. The 2 in-conference teams and then the 1 team out of the conference that you have to play. They're all third-place teams from a season ago. And unless that third-place team made incremental, improvements, and they're a night and day better team than they were a season ago, that team probably sucks ass. So the likelihood is, and I don't know if that whole division, the AFC East, is playing the AFC South or not. Can't speak to that right now. But if they're not, the Bills don't get to play the Titans. They probably got to play the Texans, right? The Dolphins don't get to play the Titans. They got to play the Colts, right? These aren't easy games. Not to say that the Titans are some pushover, but I'd rather take my chances playing the Tennessee Titans than I would or you know what? That's probably Jacksonville. I think Jacksonville finished third in that division last year. So that won't be easy. But you get my drift. You get what I'm saying. At the end of the day, that leads me to believe that they got to play, that whole division has to play the AFC South. The Jets are going to be fine, is what I'm ultimately getting to. And that connection between Rodgers and Garrett Wilson, which we saw on display tonight, is going to be a special one this year. Wilson's going to be a problem. And I think that offense has a chance to be good. I don't know if it'll be great. I still have my doubts and my reservations, but this was the first game. Obviously, Rodgers played in no preseason games. So this was, for all intents and purposes, preseason game 1 for the Jets. I hate that NFL teams have to go through this type of performance because they don't play their starters. A lot of teams look like ass. The Chargers looked like shit yesterday, but they won because they played the Raiders and they stink, right? But the Chargers didn't look great, and it was because they didn't play their guys in the preseason. Seattle was okay. And I pick this scab every year about not playing your players in the preseason, but a lot of teams look like they could have used more preseason work. And I think that's why you see so many teams struggle in week 1. The best of the best, they get it done no matter what. But in this league, there's a big difference between the haves, the middle class, and the have-nots. And there's a sizable gap between the haves and the middle class. Like, there's a difference, a clear difference. And then there's another difference between the middle class and the have-nots. And the gap between the haves and the have-nots, it's wide. Okay? It's wide. So the haves can get away with not, utilizing the preseason and just doing joint practices and things of that nature. The have-nots and half of the middle class can't. They need that work. And when they don't get it, week 1 of the preseason or week 1 of the regular season looks like the 3rd week of the preseason for a lot of teams. That dress rehearsal game that it used to be. So for the Jets, that's what this looked like. This looked like dress rehearsal. This looked like a preseason game. Rodgers get his feet wet, get a couple of tosses to Garrett Wilson, a couple of tosses to Lazard, run it a little bit with Breece Hall, toss it to him a couple of times, let him get loose a little bit, and then, all right, we'll be ready next week for Tennessee. They weren't going to beat the 49ers anyway, so it didn't really matter. But dominant performance by the 49ers. And I can tell you this, the Jets defensively will be just fine. They ran into a tough team. I do question, and again, not every team in the league is San Francisco up front. Not every team features Trent Williams at left tackle, but it's not like this 49ers offensive line is, full of Pro Bowlers and all pro guys, right? I haven't seen anybody, highlighting Jake Brendel, as one of the better offensive linemen in the league, or Colton McKivitz, as one of the best tackles in football, right? Like, this isn't a dominant offensive line, but they're good. And they moved the Jets. I mean, there were runs with Mason, and while he was physical and he was running through arm tackles and he was finishing runs physically, and taking 3-yard runs and turn them into 6-yard runs, and taking 6-yard runs and turn them into 11-yard runs. While he was doing that, he wasn't getting touched on some of these runs for 4, 5, 6 yards where first contact is made. I mean, the man ran for 147 yards, okay, on 28 carries. It's not like this man had 96 yards on 21 carries. You're like, hey, man, he had a really solid day. No, this man had an outstanding day, okay? He dominated, and he didn't do it alone. So I wonder if there are issues with the Jets' run defense. Now I'm kind of looking at the defense from a rush standpoint and saying, are you really good up front stopping the run? Or was it just the 49ers? I guess time will tell. Time will tell. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to the comment section. But before we do that, you know what we got to do. Let's get to Inside the Odds, brought to you by Bet US.
Inside the Odds.
Looking for a new book this football season? Bet US is the answer. Fastest payouts in the industry. Get 10% back on your net losses twice a year. How many books are doing that for you? And here's the kicker. And you saw the intro here into Inside the Odds. You saw 125%. They've upped the ante for my viewers. Now it's 150% off on the sign-up bonus for up to $2,000 on your first 3 deposits when you use the promo code YouTube150. Go to betus.com and use the promo code YouTube150 to get you get up to $2,000. Get to up to a sign-in bonus of up to $2,000 on your first 3 deposits by using that promo code YouTube150. And look, there have been some prop bets and some numbers like this number here. I was begging anybody to take the over on this number. This number was too low in terms of the total for this game. The 43 that you see in front of you, first of all, I had 44. So I knew the total was going to be over. Because I combined, I said the two teams will score no less than 44. All right. That was what I saw happening. So I was begging anybody out there to hit the over on this, mash the over. I also was telling anybody, play the 49ers -4. Take the spread. 49ers are going to cover the spread. They did. Easily, right? I didn't think they were going to dominate the way that they did, but I thought they would win this game comfortably enough to cover the spread, right? So let's get into some of the odds. All of this is powered by BetUS. All of the numbers you see are provided by BetUS. So let's take a look at the running back duo props. So obviously Christian McCaffrey did not play in this game. I would have loved to have seen what some of the numbers for Jordan Jesus. Why can't I remember this kid's name? Jordan Mason. I want to call him Jordan Morgan, the offensive tackle, or he's a guard now for the Packers that was taken in second round, or I think he was in the first round. I want to call him Jordan Morgan so bad. Jordan Mason. I would have loved to have seen what the over-under on his rush totals were, as the books probably scrambled with McCaffrey being out. Books were scrambling to probably get something up on the board. I wonder what the number was for him. But as you can see, Deebo Samuel's number for rush yards and receiving yards, I wonder what the number was for him for rushing yards, because they utilized him as a runner. Now, he didn't have any big runs in this game, but they utilized him as a runner a ton, I guess, to kind of offset the fact that McCaffrey wasn't, in the backfield. But, obviously Jordan Mason handled that load by himself pretty damn well, if I may say so myself. But, something that I need to get used to is Deebo Samuel in the number 1 jersey. Did that throw any of you off? Used to seeing him in that 19, and he switched to 1 this year, and looked a little weird. It's my eyes have to adjust. It won't take long, but it definitely have to adjust. Let's see what Deebo did in the receiving department. Let's see. Deebo had 54 yards. I'm not going to even hold you. I probably would have took the under on his receiving yards in this game, just because I was not expecting McCaffrey to not play. And because McCaffrey is such a big part of the offense, I would have thought that this would have been a McCaffrey and, George Kittle type game, run the football, get that play action fake, and then Kittle sneaks over the middle of the field on a seam ball type of, even with use check. That's something else. Let me mention this. I don't know why more teams don't utilize a fullback. You can do so much with a fullback. Did you see that cute play? They snuck him out of the backfield up the sideline, isolated him one-on-one with that linebacker, got him. Oh, really? It really wasn't even a linebacker. It was the safety out of Cal. He was asleep behind the wheel because nobody ever pays attention to the fullback. It's like he's invisible, right? They send him in motion. They ran him up the sideline. Sauce Gardner just abandoned him. Just left him there like, whatever. They're not going to throw him the football. People treat the fullback like he's Casper the Friendly Ghost or some shit. You know how much you can do with a fullback? And yet the league shits on a fullback like they're unusable. Like they serve no purpose. I get it. It's somewhat archaic to think that a fullback can play in today's league because it's a passing league. The NFL is bullshit. You get you a good fullback, and I know there aren't just Kyle Juszczyk's, walking around that you can grab, but at one point, there used to be this position that they had at Northwestern called a superback. And it was this big white dude that could do everything. He could catch, he could run. He wasn't really a true tailback. He wasn't really a fullback. He was a superback. That's the kind of guy that I want to be my fullback in the NFL. One of those guys. Like Taysom Hill could be a fullback. You could do so much. And that's essentially what Taysom Hill is. I know he's technically like a tight end, backup quarterback, et cetera, but you can do so much with a guy like Taysom Hill. And that's what the Saints used to do when Sean Payton was there. Man, people be sleeping. I swear they sleep. But Deebo went over the total on receiving yards. 49.5 was the total. I would have taken the under. I thought this would have been a McCaffrey George Kittle type game. But Deebo snuck over that total. I didn't think he had 49 either. I think he had a catch late in the game that might have pushed him over the total in this game. He had 8 carries for 23 yards, did Deebo. How about Jauan Jennings? I thought that was one of their best moves of the offseason. Everybody will talk about the new money they gave Christian McCaffrey, well-deserved. Everyone's going to talk about the deal they gave to Trent Williams to get him to come back and the new money there, the guarantees. Everybody's going to talk about what they did for Brandon Ayuk. The biggest signing that the 49ers made this offseason to me was bringing back Jauan Jennings. People don't talk enough about his impact, but he's a glue guy. I think he holds this shit together, right? When they need somebody outside of Brandon Ayuk to make a play at receiver, it's usually not Deebo Samuel in terms of down the field, right? 7, 12, 15 yards down the field. It's Jauan Jennings. When they need that Green Bay game, when they were on their deathbed, okay? They were on life support, gasping for air. You know who that oxygen mask was for them that kept them alive? Jauan Jennings. I'm so glad they re-signed him. I told Washington fans, I said, if they don't want him, I'll take him. You remember the lady from Coming to America? She said, if you're really a prince, I'll marry you. I was looking at Jauan Jennings. If you don't want him, I'll take him. They was like, nah, bad back. He's ours. I was like, shit. I was eyeballing him. I was eyeballing. I always tell y'all, somebody's always looking at your stuff. I damn sure had my eye on Jauan Jennings, like, oh, you don't want him. And you know, Adam Peters was like, I know what Jauan Jennings is about. You don't want him. We'll take him. And I damn sure was eyeballing him, but he's a good football player, man. Does everything. Physical, blocks, catches everything, strong hands, fights for yardage after the catch. He's can throw passes. He threw a touchdown pass in the Super Bowl. What doesn't he do, right? Let's get to Rodgers prop bet for this game. Also brought to us by BetUS. So passing yards, 234. He didn't make it to 200 yards, if I'm not mistaken. Don't think he made it to 200 yards in this game. 167. I would have taken the under. There. That was an easy one. This 49ers defense is relentless. I didn't see him. I thought they set that number too high. They were begging you to take the under and get a quick buck there, right? Begging you to take the under. Completions, 22.5. I would have taken the over here, right? Because I thought he would have had to go dink and dunk city. They were going to keep everything in front of him. He was going to be, checking it down a ton. And they were going to have to throw it a lot to try to win because they were going to be behind in the game, which they were. 13 completions on he didn't even have 22 attempts. He had 21 attempts. So I didn't think he was going to hit 234 yards, but yet I thought he was going to have, 24 completions, but it was going to be for 198 yards, right? A lot of underneath throws because this defense was just going to be getting to him and he's going to have to get the ball out of his hands. And then 1.5 passing touchdowns. Obviously, he fell short of that as well. So they were begging you there. But that's a tough one because 2 touchdown passes for Aaron Rodgers, that's tough. It's tough to say, nah, he's only going to throw 1 or none. So if you were bold enough to bet the under there, you could have made it. It's plus 110. Like, you could have made you a nice little piece of change real quick if you were willing to slap down a couple bucks on that. So 49ers defense really did a number on Rodgers because he hit none of these markers here. All right. Especially the passing touchdowns. That's a good one. At plus 110, could have easily made a quick couple bucks there. Big shout out to BetUS for providing us with these odds. So let's get to the comment section and see what you guys have to say about this contest. Syndigo, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Syndico writes, go ahead and prepare your 00 statement to me about Bryce Young. I desperately tried to tell you about this dude last year. Averages at best. I haven't watched the game, but the numbers were dreadful. But this isn't about Bryce Young, and I will offer up that 00 when the time is right. It feels like that time is drawing near very rapidly. I mean, it was really bad yesterday, and I haven't watched it yet. I just saw the numbers and how badly they lost the game. He had to be awful. But I'm going to be doing a segment on my podcast about your Carolina Panthers. You should tune in tomorrow. I have a lot to say about the plight of the Panthers. Buckle up, Syndico. I feel bad for you and all your compadres. You're going to be awful for a very, very long time. You're going into what I just got out of, and it's a bad place to be. And I really hurt for you because you have no idea what you're about to embark upon. And I tried to warn Panthers fans about this 2 years ago, and they told me I was crazy and, y'all don't know what y'all talking about. Y'all on the outside looking in, and I'm like, shit. The hell if I don't. I know the shit when I see it. But don't worry. You're going to feel it. A wise woman once told me, those who don't hear, feel. I feel for you. I'm about to go through it. Oh, feel bad for you, Sideko. GT7. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. who writes, howdy, Louie. What's going on, GT? He says, man, oh man, not overreacting. You're right. The defense's cardio was struggling. Chin looked suspect. That Bama had 2 tackles in situational football grade F or incomplete. JD5 is fast. Damn. I'm gonna key in on Jeremy Chin when I go back and watch again, because I really didn't pay close attention to what he was doing. But he had a couple of tackles. You say he had 2 tackles. If those are the 2 tackles you're referring to, both of them were good tackles that saved plays from going from 7-yard gains to 27-yard gains. Like, if he didn't make that tackle, oh shit, so we'll see how this like I said, it just wasn't a good game overall for the entire unit. Everybody had their hand in the shit show that was yesterday. So coaches included. So like that one is one of those, okay, chalk it up to first game of a new regime of everybody getting in there. First game, 90 degrees, hot. Nobody really played in the preseason. This is what you get. Excuse me. This is what you get. So I'm not overreacting. I've talked about it all day about how I feel, and I think we're going to be fine. But changes have to be made. And clearly, changes will be made. You saw they've already moved on from the kicker. Now, we got word, and remember I said on the show, I wasn't quite sure. There was a rumor floating around that, they had to make a decision by week 2, which is why they moved on from Cade York. They get their 7th-round pick back. That, in fact, was true, that if he played 2 games, if he was on the roster after week 2, that the Browns would get that 7th-round pick. And Adam Peters was like, nah, give me my shit back. Give my shit back. That's a shame. Cade York all he had to do was kick well in week 1, and the Browns were going to get the pick. And they were hoping and praying that he would just kick well, and he couldn't even do it for 1 game. So now they don't get the 7th-round pick. GT7, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. My guy GT7 writes, Bobby Turner Jr., running back whisperer. You know what's funny, GT? Oh, man, I'm so glad you brought him up. So me and my wife are watching this game tonight. And they show Bobby, and they put his real name on the screen. They put his government up there, Robert Turner Jr. And I'm like, Bobby! I got excited. I saw Bobby, right? Everybody, if you're a fan of the Broncos, you're a fan of the Redskins / Commanders, anywhere that the Shanahans go, they take Bobby Turner with them. That just, it's a given. Bobby's going to be right there with him. I would venture to say that I'm pretty sure he was with Kyle in Atlanta, right? Like, that's Bobby Turner. So I see Bobby on the screen, and I tell my wife, that man belongs in the Hall of Fame. That man belongs. And she's like, are they going to put him in the Hall of Fame? And I was like, no, they don't put positional coaches in the Hall of Fame. They should. The Patriots had a offensive line coach, Scarnecchia, like that retired maybe 2-3 years ago. Should be in the Hall of Fame. Bobby Turner, you find me a better running backs coach in NFL history than Bobby Turner. I'll wait. Should be in the Hall of Fame. But they don't put positional coaches in the Hall of Fame. And at this rate, the Eagles offensive line coach, Joe Stoutland, probably should be in the Hall of Fame if this shit keeps up. Like, Stoutland U is a real thing, right? Probably won't get in though, right? Because I don't know if they do that. I just have never heard of a guy being a positional coach getting in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. But man, wherever Bobby is, quality running back play follows. Love me some Bobby Turner, man. You said it, GT7. Big Money Sonny, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Big Money Sonny writes, You still believe in the secondary, Lou? First of all, I never believed in our secondary. So still would imply that I had belief in them before, and now that belief could be waning, or am I still on board with them? I never believed in the entire secondary. I believe in the safeties in the secondary. The corners were always a question mark. I like Mike Samer still. I like Michael Davis. They did not play Michael Davis. And you know what? I like Noah Igbenogany as well. He is slowly but surely gaining more of my trust. Okay. He played well when he finally got in there. When they benched Forbes after the PI / face mask, they put in Noah Igbenogany and shit got better. We actually got our first stop of the game, I believe, after that. If I'm not mistaken, we actually finally got our first stop. I think the stop might have come before that, but whatever the case may be, he played well in the game, and he played well in the preseason. So I don't know if their answer is to give Noah Igbenogany a chance to start out wide opposite of Benjamin St. Juste, because my guy got 0 defensive snaps. Like, with all the shit that was going on, Michael Davis did not see the field at all. So I think they're still tweaking things, still trying to figure out who goes where. But it feels like Noah Igbenogany is going to be the first guy to get an opportunity. If, and this is a big if, because I wouldn't be shocked if we get to Sunday against the Giants and Emmanuel Forbes Jr. is starting opposite of Benjamin St. Juste. I wouldn't be shocked by that. If he's not starting, though, it feels like it's Noah Igbenogany that'll be starting instead. But they need to figure this out and fast, because whomever they put in there, we need to start getting some communication going amongst the guys in the secondary. So I never believed in the entire secondary, Big Money Sonny. I believed in the safeties and Mike Samer still, and a guy that's not even playing in Michael Davis. So now I'll tell you this. I believe in the scheme that Joe Witt Jr. and Dan Quinn are deploying. I believe in that. And I think the defense will get better because I believe in the scheme. That is what I do believe in. John Perez, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, JP, thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Writes, Lou, good to see you as always. Likewise, JP. First week was bonkers. We have to talk about Watson's fall from grace and how Bryce needs to get out of Carolina. Deshaun Watson, I said this, I think I said this a week ago. Don't ask me where I said it, but I know I said it. And it had to be on a podcast. It had to be on a podcast. It might have been after one of these games here recently, Thursday night football, maybe. I don't know. But I said, has there been a quarterback outside of Russell Wilson who has had a further fall from grace than Deshaun Watson over the last 3 seasons? Russell Wilson and him are fighting for the furthest fall from grace. And the only reason that I think I put Russ ahead of him is because Russ is trying to undo a Hall of Fame career right now on the back end. He's trying to take his Hall of Fame jacket away from himself. I'm like, Russ, what you doing, bro? You had the gold jacket already. You taking this shit off. Deshaun Watson went from borderline superstar NFL quarterback to, hey, you might be out of the league, and he's not going to be out of the league. He's Deshaun Watson, but the way you're playing suggests you should be out of the league in 2 years. He's awful right now. This man is being paid $63 million. I watched that Cowboys game. He is shit right now. I know Kevin Stefanski is like, I cannot deal with this level of incompetence. I bet you if you gave Kevin Stefanski truth serum, he'd rather have Joe Flacco. I kid you not. He can't do it. It's 60. They're paying the man $63 million this year, $63 million next year. They can't get out of this thing. And they just backloaded more of the money. They restructured this deal. They're in hell with Deshaun Watson. And I don't feel bad for him. as far as Bryce getting out of Carolina, I got to watch the game because it's hard for me to think that this kid just forgot how to play football. But boy, were those numbers bad. I was like, hey, it's 17-0 already. I was like, damn, that's an ass whooping. Then they got to halftime and Nate Burleson was doing the highlights for CBS and he's like, the blowout of the day. And then they showed the score. Shit, it's 30-0. And I was like, okay, well, what's Bryce doing, right? And I looked at them numbers. I was like, yeah, oi. Uh-oh. Pitchforks and torches are coming out in Carolina. Uh-oh. Yeah, it was bad. I got to watch it, though. I got to watch it. See what's going on. GT7, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, GT7 writes, OG Bobby was definitely in Atlanta. And why no Ramiz Ahmed, only kicker that made kicks? Because Ramiz has the kicking leg of a 16-year-old. That's why. I already had told you why Ramiz won't go make the cut, right? Ramiz's kicks. Did you hear what Dan Quinn like? Dan Quinn tells you what he's looking for. Y'all, some of y'all don't be listening though. I'll be trying to put y'all up on game because I told you that's where my psychology background comes in. I'm paying attention to every little thing, and I'm with Dan on this. By the way, I don't want no Sean Sweezum leg ass kicker, right? Sean Sweezum could make any kick 49 yards and in. You ask Sean Sweezum to kick that bitch from 51, it might be short. We live in a day and age where your kicker better be able to make a 55, 56-yard kick. That's the way we live now in the NFL. You can't make a 55-yard kick, then you shouldn't be in the league kicking. The game has evolved, kickers have evolved. And so Ramiz Ahmed, boy, them extra points, them shits was from 33 yards. Them shits was at the middle of the net. GT, middle of the net, barely getting to the middle of the net. That's supposed to be at the top of the net, bro. From extra points, top of the net, ascending from 33 yards. He ain't got it. So yeah, Ramiz was never gonna be the guy. So we go to the next guy, Austin Seibert. It looks like Austin Seibert it is. See what he's got, right? See what he can do. GT7, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. GT7 writes, chin blue coverage on the McMillan score. I gotta watch that play. I haven't watched it. Specifically looking at him. Because what I was watching, I was looking at the corners because I saw a lot of miscommunication between the corners there. It might have been chin. You know, I got to go back. I just know I saw the corners pointing in safety and nobody was there. And I'm like, what's going on here, guys? So I'll go back and look at it and see if, in fact, it was chin. But, again, it's enough blame to go around. And if it was him, add that to the list of shit that didn't go right, that we just didn't look prepared. I mean, that was the state of our team yesterday. Was just it just wasn't good enough. Or Sunday, I should say now. It just wasn't good enough. All right. I should have done this already, but we got about 15 minutes or so remaining in the show. So go ahead and line up your comments. If you're out there, I'm pretty sure those of you who are veterans here who know how this works, you've already been lining up your comments using the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read on the air if it is pertinent. If time permits, we'll get to your comment and react to it. But again, as I just told you, we only got about 15 minutes or so roughly left. So if you want your comment read, the best way to do that is to super chat. That ensures that not only is your comment read, but you jump straight to the front of the line. So we'll get to as many comments as we can. Let's get to the comment section right now. See what you guys are talking about. So got a super chat. So let me get to that real quick. Edward Washington, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, my guy. Ed Dub, right? Speaking of bad QB play, what happened to Kirk Cousins this week? Man, that shit was wicked, 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 wicked. Wicked, 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 wicked. They got after his ass. That's what happened. TJ Watt was like a relentless Rottweiler on his ass. Just and they one of the reasons Kirk chose Atlanta is because he felt like he was going to be protected. They got one of the better offensive line. TJ Watt devoured that offensive line, man. He destroyed that game. Like he wrecked the game. Man, he's good. TJ Watt is ridiculous. Kirk was under siege. And you know, one thing Kirk don't like is pressure. He didn't do well with that shit. You know. Yeah, it wasn't a very, very inauspicious debut for Kirk Cousins, to say the least. But he'll be better. You know what's rough is he got TJ Watt, and then next week it's been a house of horrors for Kirk Cousins in week 2 in Philadelphia. I don't know why the NFL sees fit to do this to him every year, but Kirk Cousins has played on national television in week 2 in Philadelphia each of the last 3 years now. This will be the 3rd year in a row. The last 2 years, the Minnesota Vikings played in Philadelphia. They were on a Monday night doubleheader 2 years ago against the Eagles, where Kirk threw like 3 interceptions. And then last year they were on Thursday Night Football in week 2. And I don't think Kirk was terrible in that game, but Justin Jefferson had the fumble at the goal line. And I think Kirk threw like 2 interceptions in that game, 1 or 2. And they were close, though. That game was a lot closer, but they still lost. And now he's going back to the scene of the crime again, this time as a member of the Minnesota Vikings. And that's on Monday Night Football. So we'll see if he can be better. But yeah, that was not an ideal start to his Atlanta Falcons. You know, this is the shit that I don't like for Kirk. That shit I don't like is now that happens. My wife said, "You think they'll put in Michael Penix?" I was like, "Don't you start that shit. Don't you start that. Don't you start that shit." Right? And this is why when you're a veteran quarterback, Kirk would have never gone there if they would have told him from the jump that they were thinking about doing that. Because now, anytime some shit goes awry, my wife, you know, my wife doesn't know any better. She's just like, "Hey, didn't they draft Michael Penix?" I'm like, "No, you can't do that." But you don't think it's some Falcon fans that was watching that game and said, "Man, if he gonna do that shit, just put Penix in the game." You don't think it was some fans that was doing that shit? Y'all know how this works. I'm like, y'all ain't gonna be doing my man Kirk like that. But it was bad. It was Kirk. You know how Kirk do when you put some pressure on his ass. Kirk be like, "Here, just take it. Just take it." Kirk spreads the ass cheeks. He gives up the ass. He gives up the cheeks. You put pressure on him, right? He'll give it up. Pause. He'll give it up. So, yeah, he spread the cheeks wide for him yesterday. It wasn't. Pause again. It wasn't an ideal start, but I'll say this. Hopefully the Eagles won't get that kind of pressure on Monday night. We'll see, right? I felt bad for my guy, Kirk. I really did. All right, let's start with Niners fan. Right, good win, Lou. Always knew Mason was capable of this, and he seems to be our official RB2. Defense looks solid, but we need more depth at edge rusher. Tough test next week at Minnesota. This is my guy, Niners fan, being very modest. He should be modest because if I were him, I would be saying the exact same thing. Man, that's a tough test next week in Minnesota. I'll be brash for you. They ain't no goddamn tough test. Now, you did go into Minnesota last year and lose. That was without Debo. That was without Trent Williams. And Brock Purdy threw 19 interceptions, and you still almost win the game. You're going to go in there, and you're going to handle business against Sam Darnold. Yeah, he looked good. That was the Giants, man. I expect y'all to go in there and roll those boys. Take care of business next week. We'll see what happens. Niners fan also writes, "I don't know why Brock threw to the tight end up the seam on the throw. Adams nearly intercepted. He had man-to-man coverage on the outside. Should have gone there." Sometimes you just don't see it, you know? And we see it because we've got the vantage point of instant replay, and we get the all 22 look, and so we get to see everything. He didn't see it, right? He saw man-to-man up the seam. He didn't see the safety. And if you've never put on a football helmet, and this is the thing that I always got to remind myself of, is I've worn a football helmet before. And so if you've ever worn a football helmet, this is what your vision looks like. Okay, this is what your shit is. There's no peripheral vision. If the safety is right here, he's outside of your view. You don't see him coming. So all he sees, if he's looking straight, is a safety running up the seam with a linebacker with his back turned. Oh, I think I can get it in there. Right outside of his view is a safety coming over to come get that thing. It would, even if Adams didn't come over and knock it down, he would have hit the linebacker in his back. It wasn't a good throw. It wasn't a good decision. He just didn't see the safety, and he obviously didn't see the one-on-one because he should have taken the one-on-one, right? Let's see. Kevin, heard you ask about Leighton. I'm about to call him Leighton Vander Esch. LVN is Lucas Van Ness, and I asked about him on. I was about to say Choice Day. It wasn't Choice Day. It was Friday when y'all played the Philadelphia Eagles. He played 19 snaps, looking more like Nick Perry than Gary, but it's still only year 2, and he looks like a freak. Hope him being a 4-3 edge helps him play better. I thought that's what he really truly was. I know there's this fascination with trying to get mismatches inside, kicking guys and reducing them to 3 techs. And then, the Packers at one point were a 3-4 team. So he might be a 5 tech, things of that nature. But I think he's really more of a base 4-3 defensive end. That's where he should live, and that should be his home. Athletically, he is a freak, which is what got him drafted in the first round. But is there any technique? Is there any skill? That's what I've always questioned with about to call him Leighton Vander Esch again, with Lucas Van Ness. And I still haven't seen any skill. And that's what I want to know. Is he developing? The talent is there, but talent don't mean shit in this league if you don't have any kind of technique, no rush plan, none of that. Does it seem like he has any of that? So that's what I was wondering about. Tank writes, not sure if you answered this yet, but what are your thoughts on Jordan Mason saying he found out that he was starting Friday night, but CMC was ruled out only an hour before the game? Well, the team doesn't have to divulge that information. Like, he's on the injury reports. It's not like they're hiding. You have that advantage. So you could take it all the way up to game time and say, hey, he's a game time decision. But they've already told Jordan Mason, hey, bro, you're starting. We're not going to play Christian McCaffrey. They probably already knew well in advance that they weren't going to play Christian McCaffrey in this game, because we're not risking it for one game. We're not talking about an ankle sprain. We're talking about an Achilles that's sore. We got to be very careful with this. So he probably didn't know on Friday. But from a competitive advantage standpoint, you want to force the Jet staff to prepare for Christian McCaffrey. So that's why you don't find out until today. Kevin says, we beat them in 21 in week 3 at San Francisco, but OFC, it's the one time it doesn't matter. What does OFC mean? Really hope AR-12 does great. He needs one ring to back him up. He's disrespected nowadays. He's a bad man. Shaking my head. I tried to say this, and somebody told me that Aaron Rodgers don't need nothing. His legacy is set in stone. And I'm like, no, Aaron Rodgers is the first ballot Hall of Famer. No one's questioning that. But if we're talking about his place in the hierarchy of his era, if he doesn't get another ring, people are going to look at his career as, I won't say a failure, because it's not, it's far from a failure, They're going to look at his career as, but there's always going to be a but. Like there should have been more accomplished. And so he needs this ring. Like Peyton Manning needed that second ring to not to validate his career, not to validate him as one of the greatest quarterbacks. He needed that second ring to validate where he was in terms of his era of quarterbacks. Because Ben Roethlisberger had 2 rings, right? His own brother had 2 rings. Drew Brees only got 1, right? You don't want to be in that conversation as the guy. Look, it's better than none. You could be Phillip Rivers, but you don't want to be in the same conversation with Drew Brees and the guys that only have 1 ring, right? Russell Wilson only has 1 ring. You want to be in that conversation with the guys with 2 or more rings. And for as much winning as Aaron Rodgers has done, as many number 1 seeds, all the MVPs he's won, the man has 1 Super Bowl ring. And that is a stain on his legacy right now. He needs 1 more to put him in that rarefied air. There aren't many quarterbacks in NFL history who have won multiple Super Bowls with 2 different franchises, let alone 2 in general, but 2 different franchises. He then takes himself into a different plateau. And now he rightfully takes his spot where he belongs in his era of quarterbacks. He needs 1 more. If he doesn't get it, he's still Aaron Rodgers, still one of the best quarterbacks ever to do it. But there'll be a but. There'll be a but. All right. I think this might be the last one here. Metaphor says Jaden did better than Rodgers this week, even with PFF's AI showing he had the lowest amount of time to pressure in the pocket. Like I said, when I went back and I watched Jaden, there was more pressure on him than I remember watching it live. And especially early, it was immediate pressure. Wiley was not even giving him a chance. On the first 2 dropbacks after he threw the ball backwards 13 yards, Andrew Wiley was beaten immediately. Jaden had to get out of there, man. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Let's see. I want to take one more before we get out of here. Boom. This is a perfect way to end the show. DJ23 writes, hot take, with all the talent they have and money spent, if the 49ers don't win the Super Bowl in the next 2 years, they get rid of Kyle. That is one hell of a hot take because I can't see that shit happening at all, whether they win a Super Bowl or not. Kyle has been too good for too long with this group, and it'd be one thing if he were doing this with an older quarterback and like a Rodgers, for instance, and Rodgers was on the way out and you're trying to figure out how you transition to the next guy, and then it kind of goes downhill. Sort of like Brady and Belichick, right? After Brady left, Belichick was there for 3 years? Shit went off the rails, and then he was gone, right? He got fired. And so I could see something like that happening. But because Brock Purdy is so young and this is Kyle's guy, you pay Brock Purdy all this money, it's because he thrives and flourishes in Kyle's system. You can't move on from Brock Purdy. You're about to break Brock Purdy off and make him one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL. So after that happens, this is Kyle's guy, because the next guy might not come in here and be able to get the most out of Brock Purdy. So I know that, him not getting the Super Bowl sucks, but he's not going anywhere. And remember, it's Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. It's a package deal. They've been fantastic together. They're not blowing that thing up in San Francisco. No way in hell that shit's happening. So I hear you, DJ, but Ain't happening. It ain't happening. Anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on Monday Night Football Overtime. 49ers bring week 1 to a close with a 32-19 victory over the New York Jets. Dominant performance by the 49ers. The score really doesn't tell the story. They dominated this game, time of possession wise, on the ground. Jordan Mason was the story of this game. 28 carries, 147 yards. How many touchdowns did he have? 1 or 2 touchdowns in this game? One, because Debo had the other one. 1 touchdown, because the 49ers only scored 2 touchdowns. Also want to give a quick shout out to the 49ers place kicker, Jake Moody. 6 for 6, including a couple of 50-yarders in this game. One, clanked off the upright from probably in the 40 somewhere, but he had a 51, a 53, and 6 for 6. That's how you do it. So between Jordan Mason and Jake Moody, they took care of business for the 49ers, and that defense was swarming. They got after Rodgers. They forced 2 turnovers. They kept the Jets from sustaining offense, got them off the field consistently, and really handled business the way that you're supposed to when you've been to the NFC Championship game, 4 times in the last 5 years? 19. Everybody got hurt in 20. 21, 22, and 23. So, yeah, 4 times in the last 5 years you've been to the NFC Championship game. That's how you take care of business to kick your season off. Want to give a quick shout out to BetUS for sponsoring this live stream. Once again, if you'd like to sign up for BetUS, go to betus.com, use the promo code YouTube150. All right. Big shout out to BetUS for sponsoring this stream. So that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on this stream. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys this week. Got the podcast tomorrow. We will go through the full slate of games in week number 1 in the National Football League, talk about what I saw, and start to turn the page and start to look forward to what will be an interesting week 2 in the league. I think you'll see a lot better football because there was some sloppy play around the NFL. The Bengals were terrible. That was a sloppy performance. The Falcons were terrible. That was a sloppy performance. The Titans had a sloppy performance. They were up big and blew that game. The Bears were sloppy, but the defense and the special teams stepped up. Like I said, the Chargers were sloppy. That whole game was sloppy with the Chargers and the Raiders. But Chargers got it done. I don't give a shit what it looks like. Just give me the dub, right? So we'll definitely, I think, see better football in week number 2. But that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T. Until next time, you guys take care. Have a good one. God bless. And good night.